you get hurt and you got to cover it up with a Band-Aid or something. But sometimes you don't really talk about the root. How did you get wounded? You know, what caused that hurt? And then they get hurt again. So what we need to talk about is prevention before anything happens. And in order to do that, the communication leadership skills, you got to understand what the qualities are to keep people from ever being harmed.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Electrical Safety Podcast. I'm your host, John Travis, and returning, we've got Brent Jeffries with Bierer Meters. Brent, good to see you again.
Good to see you again, Jonathan. It's been about 6 months since we saw each other last, which it seems like yesterday to me.
Yeah, time flies. I mean,
Yeah,
and you know, we were kind of doing a bit of chit-chat here before we got started, and you mentioned that when we had talked the first time, you kind of had a seed planted in your brain for something, and you've been working on it ever since, and now you've kind of got it formulated, so we're hoping today we can talk a bit about that. So why don't you give everybody a bit of background on what I'm talking about, and let's just get into it.
So for about 8 years, I've been going around the country doing the Lineworker safety and tool competence training that Bierer Meters we offer for the utilities and contractors for no cost, and using our tools to show how electricity works, making it to where it's not really a theory, but explaining and proving that electricity is actually a reality as far as the noun, and then continuing going through this process of meeting all these thousands of linemen and hundreds of service centers throughout America, even Hydro One and Avista near Toronto. I did some training up there for those folks. So that was fun. A little cold, but it was fun.
Yeah.
Okay. So anyways, I see why you guys have hockey as a big sport, because it does get cold there and you get some ice. But anyways, so formulating this, realizing that that going over rules and regulations and standards and training and skills within the classroom, within the training yard, talking about it, safety stand downs, going over incidences and how we can prevent incidences. I recognized that there was a big void, a big gap. And that big void and big gap was each other, the folks that do the work. We're talking about the work. We're talking about the job. We're talking about hazards. We're talking about incident prevention. But the reason these things are happening is in essence and essentially ignored, largely ignored. And that's us, each other. So I've been developing this training and this conference presentation throughout the country, and it's been highly accepted recently with National Electric Contractor Association, some large IOUs in California, incident prevention conference. It's been it's just like an eye-opener. And it's actually an eye-opener for me to even talk about it. And that's your electric reality as far as us, because we're energized beings. Every cell within our body is energized. It's just like electricity. Mm-hmm. We're energized, and recognizing that and proving the noun with our tools. Now we can let's talk about the verb, the action word, right? And the action, who gets the work done? Who does the action? What do you think, John? Who does the action?
Well, we do.
We do.
Yeah.
And that's what we're not talking about. The we. That's part of this job. You know, the job briefings, we're going to try to recognize and identify hazards. We're going to talk about mitigation of those hazards. But most job briefs that I've ever heard of or seen throughout the last 8 years doing this around the country, they don't talk about one another. We're not talking about the well-being of the people on the job. Are they fit for duty?
Mm-hmm.
Do they have something on their mind, or are they maybe they're going through some depression? Maybe they just had a fight with their wife. Maybe somebody's in the hospital. Maybe you know, a loved one just passed. There's so many things. There's so many dynamics that we're skipping over, and they're actually, what we're looking at is we're looking at a few trees, but we're missing the whole forest.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're doing.
So just to make sure I kind of understand here. So what you're saying is that, you know, up until now, for the most part, at least, you know, we are doing job briefings now. Maybe even 15, 20 years ago, we weren't doing that. But the focus has been on maybe tools, equipment, the task, things that are, you know, tangible and around us. And, you know, what you're saying as well, we're missing the human factor of that. Is that kind of what the whole thing is about?
Yeah. So I wrote an article about 2.5 months ago, trying to wrap my head around this, and it's called Rediscovering. It's really cool, and anybody, John, that wants to contact me, they can email me at safetytraining@BiereMeters.com, and I'll send it to them. And it's going to be published in the Incident Prevention magazine in August. They really liked it, but it's called Rediscovering Your Superhero. And it's basically it's an acknowledgement and admittal and recognition that within all of us, within our DNA, we have superpowers, basically. And not to get freaky, but we have gifts and we have abilities that a lot of things, distractions in this world today, take us away from recognizing that and finding them. They're in there, but they're calloused, they're covered over, they're hidden by all the smoke and all the mirrors that we find, all the obstacles and the hurdles that present themselves to us every single day. And it makes it hard for us to find that simple thing and that's within us, and look inside ourselves, not look inside politics, not listen to the lyrics of a particular song on the radio or some talk host, blah 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 blah. These things they distance ourselves from ourselves. And so we need to find that free energy that's within us. Like Tesla, he discovered the free energy, and he wanted to make it available to everybody in the noun, that free energy, and he got shut down. Well, in essence, the matrix we live in today, the establishment tries to shut that down as well. And we need to open that up. We need to open the gate. We need to open up that metal gate, the iron bars that basically keep us from that, and bust through that, break out of that mindset that we have been trained to listen to and trained to submit ourselves to. And truly, television programs, okay, those are designed to program us. And we need to disconnect from all these things and discover not only ourselves, but discover one another. And when we discover that, rediscover a superhero within us, that free energy of us and one another, then we can find that human connectiveness where, like you said, John, the tasks, those things that we have to do every day, take our kids to school, raise our children, feed our children, get the job done, make sure that everybody comes back to homes back to the service center or back to their home safely, go to the grocery store safely. Those are all byproducts. All of that's just simply a byproduct of one thing. And that one thing is human connectiveness. That's it. It's actually that simple.
So once you kind of get onto this and you started sort of developing the thought process, or you've written some articles, you've wrapped your head around it a bit more. You mentioned that you're presenting this, I guess, all over the U.S. at different conferences and things like that. How is it that, I guess I'm trying to think of the gap between where, your typical lineman is today when they're doing a job briefing or they're looking at a job. Once they start to kind of, get down to the idea that we need to focus more on the human, but what does it look like in practice? Like what, how does that job briefing change? How does the conversation change? What are some of the things that people are doing during the work that's helping improve safety?
So let's talk about that. And then we can, it's called communication. And then what we're going to do is we can go from communication to the leadership aspect. But the communication with each other, one another, is basically, in essence, it is focused on what you're going to do. This is what I'm going to tell you. And it's not designed on inclusiveness where we include everybody. It's not necessarily designed on it's safe to speak up. It's safe to participate. It's safe to challenge the status quo, and it's safe to learn. We've got to make it to where the job brief is all those things. We've got to make sure that the apprentice, we've got to make sure the groundmen, we've got to make sure that they're connecting, communicating, eyesight. We've got to look at each other. We don't just look at the piece of paper. We don't take the pen and sign our name. Okay, we agree to this. And then we write it off in our heads. We write it off. It's not an agreement. It's more of a covenant. It's more, let's just say, when you marry your wife, okay, John, how long have you been married now?
16 years.
Awesome, man. Good for you. So when you married your wife, you did not make an agreement with her. You made a covenant. You made a covenant that basically through rich, through poor, through thick or thin, through hardships, through good stuff, through mourning, through joy, you're going to work all these things out together as a team. Equal ground. Okay? You might be the head of the household, but hey, she's your helpmate. So as far as you being the head of the household, she's your helpmate. Now we're on equal ground again. Okay? So we work as a team. A marriage as a team. It's the same thing with the job brief. A job brief has to be team. It has to have that team culture. And we have to have that even playing field. No matter how long the guy has been that's running that job brief, the guy that is the qualifying party, the qualifier of the job, the guy that's overseeing the work as far as observation, he's got to make sure that overseeing the work, observing, being the qualifier, the guy that's control of the whole thing. He's got to be watching body language. He's got to be watching tone, inflections of voice. These are all communication skills that need to be brought in and taught. As soon as we walk in the door, we need to be taught in the training yard. Skills. Go over them. If we hear a word that is not this, or it's not line team, or it's a question of what we're going to do, or a concern of something that has a negative outcome that could happen, which is what a concern is. It's a prediction of a negative outcome of an event that could happen. Mm-hmm. We've got to be listening freely and inclusively, everybody. And it's got to be safe to learn. So in other words, if we in the training yard, I do this all the time. This is cool. I've developed three training sessions, John. One of them is line worker safety and tool competence. Okay, that's the training yard. The other one is your electric reality. That's leadership. That's communication. It's talking about human connectiveness. And then what's really cool, and I would really like to see folks to implement this, is session 3. It's basically a full day deal that we offer, Bierer Meters offers to the utilities and contractors. And I would like to have folks copy and implement this in their program. Then what we do is when we're in the training yard, and we go live line. We use our tools. We're phasing. We're looking at the voltage. We're looking at in phase, out of phase. Is it safe to put the switch in? What's going on? Why is there an anomaly? Why is there an issue? And at the same time, while we're in that live line training center, we're looking at all the leadership and looking at all the communication skills that we learned in the previous 2 sessions. And we're bringing them together, melding them, and activating them, and enabling them in everybody's consciousness into their mind.
Mm-hmm.
So the communication part is something that we don't learn in schools anymore. We don't learn when you go to high school. We really don't learn communication. I mean, there are some specialized classes in some colleges, I think, as far as human connectiveness and communication, but we're not teaching them. We're not teaching those skills at typically in the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, National Electric Contractors Association, the training yards throughout America, some of the apprentices, the apprenticeships, line colleges. We're not really talking about communication skills. We're not really talking about leadership. And that's what we're missing.
Yeah. There's a couple things that just came to mind as you were speaking there. They're somewhat related, and then I'll ask you maybe a question about it. So a lot of companies that we deal with, you hear things like, well, once we've got this policy in place, then we can force the worker to do it, basically. You know, that kind of a thought process, or oh, we can't, our safety's not good enough yet because we don't have the procedures, so we can't discipline anybody. And it's really that sort of mindset. And then on the flip side, you mentioned communication and the human connection, and I'm envisioning, say you have a group of 10 electricians who are on a crew, and there's one of them who just doesn't seem to want to participate in the safety initiative. How do you deal with that individual with what you're talking about?
So I'm going to have you edit this slide, and I want you to share it with all your contacts. Okay. I'll just show it to you real quick.
Yep.
Okay. And then you see that?
Yep.
Okay. So you can put it into this interview. It's very powerful. And this was given to me, again, just a gift. So, a gift you got to share, right? So I developed this that came to me on a plane going to doing some training from one side of the country to the other side of the country. So I was on the plane for almost 4 hours, and I was on my computer, and just, all this was just downloading to my brain because I'm discovering that gift inside of me, right? It's rediscovering your superhero.
Mm-hmm.
So I developed this slide, and here's the problem. The rules, regulations, policies, all these things, firing people because they're not keeping them, or we can't be safe because we don't have any intact. That's backwards thinking. And what we're doing is we take an event that passed, and we're living in the past. So we're talking about the past. We need to establish this. We need to do this. No, we need to look forward. We need to look into what's inside each other. And in order to take that person, now think about this, okay? It's kind of like, I hate to say this, but a lot of the medical system, okay? You get hurt, and you got to cover it up with a Band-Aid or something. But sometimes you don't really talk about the root. How did you get wounded? You know, what caused that hurt?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then they get hurt again. Okay. So what we need to talk about is prevention, right? Before anything happens. And in order to do that, the communication leadership skills, you got to understand what the qualities are to keep people from ever being harmed. Okay. So working safely, safe job site, powered by line team, your electric reality. This is your electric reality. In order to help folks that just don't seem to be cooperating, they seem to be an obstacle on the team. You've got to have those skill sets established in you to know what it takes to be the opposite side of what I'm going to send you as a sine wave, the electrical sine wave, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. There's a positive side of the sine wave. There's a negative side of the sine wave. Our humanity is, we're the same way. You can live your life on the negative side of things. You can live your life on the positive side of your things. So the negative side is complacency, shortcuts. You accuse, blame, complain, dismissiveness, divisiveness, defensive, excuses, insulated and isolated yourself from one another, from the team, right? But the other side is the safe job side, is you have productive connectivity, synchronicity with one another. You're encouraging, you're equipping, you're happy, and you're in unity. So that's the positive side of the sine wave. And good things happen there. And until you access this free energy, until you access how to be truly successful, you cannot help those people that are on the negative side, that are triggered by their emotions. You cannot help those people. But we've got to learn the positive side, and we've got to know that positive side, or we're never going to be able to pick those people up that are weak,
Mm-hmm.
that don't understand what you understand on how to be successful and how to go home safely, and bring them up to that line team elevation where it's positive. Okay. So that's what we have to instill and foster within our industry.
That's so I guess where that leads me, I heard once, to be the lighthouse and not the tugboat.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's very difficult to pull someone along who's maybe not seeing exactly the way you see things, and really all you can do is focus on yourself.
Yes.
And that's kind of what you're saying, is learn the positive side, and then hopefully the others kind of follow suit.
Yeah. And let me add to that, John. So you talked about policies, you talked about the rules, you talked about the task, doing the task properly. Those are all focused on the energies of the things that are around us. Okay, they focus on hazards. They focus on putting something together or reworking something, a thing. But none of those electricity, liquids, pressures, all these things are hazards that we work with and try to reestablish the job site and reconnect so we can go home where the job's done. But those are all things, the policies, and that focus on humans doing something. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But none of those things, now think about this, none of those things focus on connecting with one another. None of them. Your electric reality, that human connection and collectiveness. And when we focus on things, getting a job done, we focus on self. I'm better than them. I'm faster than them. I'm getting paid more. I know more. See, it's all about self. They're not doing much today. I'm doing all the work.
Mm-hmm.
And see these bring up walls. These closed gates shut. Man, that gate's shut. You can't get through, can't get in. And it stops that human connectiveness. And this is why people get hurt. This is why incidents happen. This is why folks lose arms. This is why folks don't go home. This is why we got to get a backhoe and dig a hole in the ground, put somebody in 6 feet deep, and we have a big, banners flying, and everybody's crying, and everybody's sad. And Monday, guess what? We start all over again. Repeat and repeat all over again. How could this happen? Why? Why does this keep happening? Think about it.
That's great. I think, Brent, that is a perfect place to end the conversation today. I want to thank you again for coming on the show. Is there somewhere that, if someone wants to maybe listen to you speak, or maybe it's online, what's the best place, right now that
I highly recommend LinkedIn, Facebook. Get a hold of Electric Culture of Safety. That's a group that I founded about 2.5 years ago. We have over 12,500 partners now, and we have two monthly lineman safety national webinars that folks come in. They drive from California, fly in from California, whatever, all the way to South Carolina, all the way around the country, and they give for freely these webinars. Some are 30 minutes long, some are up to 2 hours long, and I speak on some. And so get on Electric Culture of Safety. You can go to Bierer Meters YouTube channel, and we have lots of safety videos. I recommend folks subscribe, and they're all free. Many topics. Electric Culture of Safety. Many topics. Leadership, skills, communication, grounding, you name it, everything. And safety training at biermeters.com. Contact me, and I can send all kinds of resources. And all the speakers are, John yourself, you can resource all these speakers, and you can interview them and have them as well on your podcast, and anybody else can. And it's very powerful, very powerful.
Thanks so much.
Absolutely, John. Appreciate you having me, man.